Hello, Dana. Thanks. So I've been welcome everyone to my stream again. It's been too long. Part of the reason why I've been gone for a while is because I actually moved. I moved neighborhoods, so it's kind of been a lot of unpacking and figuring out where everything is again, and so I'm just getting back into streaming, and so far the internet connection seems like it's working, which is good. So we'll just run along. We'll continue as is. Excuse me. Um, so with my current setup, it's a little bit. It's taking some getting used to adjust to the new setup. And so part of the challenge has been trying to make sure that I can function in this new arrangement. So there's some things like the microphone is actually a little further away from me because of just how the layout is. I wasn't entirely comfortable with my last setup, so we're trying to do some optimization or I'm trying to do some optimization in my work area. So it's kind of been a little bit of a learning curve trying to adapt to this new environment. But welcome to the new digs. It's a pretty blank looking room right now, and hope to do some decorating in a little bit. So I'm just working on I'm still working on the story that I've been pounding on for like the last few months, and it's kind of a story that I've been trying to work on intermittently between freelance. So that's why you see it's taking me quite a while. It's taking me a while to finish it. But it's coming along. There's been some changes that I've made based upon, like, as I'm drawing it, it's like I'm learning different techniques and learning different methods to help improve the workflow and just the overall look. Yes, it's all digital, even though it kind of looks a little bit like it's not. That's intentional. Yeah, it's felt a little bit weird not being. I was trying to stream every day, and it felt kind of weird, like having forced to step back and not not always be so connected. And one of the things I came across while I was gone was that I was kind of forced to, or I came across this book that someone recommended to me about. It's called Deep Work by what's his name? Something Berkeley or something like that. Here, I could just bring it up again. I'm totally botching the guy's name. Cal Newport. Okay, that's what I thought. It was like, I was thinking it was some city that it was like a name of a city. And I'm from Oregon, so I was kind of thinking about Newport. But it's an interesting read. It's about the need for us to not be so connected all the time, to always to be able to, like, we're losing the ability to focus deeply on and do tasks that have a real impact. But it's difficult to do that when you're always looking at your phone or always being distracted, or even it's not just being on the phone, it's also things like email and text and that sort of thing. So it was pretty insightful. It made me think about what I give my attention to and how let's see here. Speaking of being distracted, it gives me pause as to, what's the purpose of doing all this, and what do I really want to spend my time on. And I think I've always been on that on that journey, chasing that, not chasing, but just being on the journey of trying to figure out what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. I think I've been thinking about that ever since being a dad. So, all right. So this is the scene where Hugo opens the door. Put him up here. So I'm trying to create this paper cut look that I observed from, guys like Leo Leone or Carl, or one of these days I'm going to get that name right. I'm going to meet him and I'll be like, "Hello, sir, Mr. Carly. I really admire your work and I appreciate it." And he's like, "It's Carl." I came across this one book too. It was called the Real Boat. It's a Russian children's book, and picked it out while at the library, and from the cover, it seemed pretty interesting. It looked pretty illustrative, and it once I opened it up, I mean it's so it's translated from Russian. Let's see here. It's by Victoria Aroshtam, and illustrated by, or sorry, it's illustrated by Marina Aroshtam and illustrated by Victoria Semikina. But it's a beautiful book, and it's a fantastic just a fantastic bit of illustration. The story's also pretty interesting too. I mean, it's about a paper boat that wants to be a real boat, and he goes on this journey, and I think it's fun for kids because there's all sorts of boats that are shown. So I think with kids books, it shows that, or what makes kids books interesting can be just showing them the world and showing them the variety of different things, like, you know, a book of food, or a book of boats, or a book of animals, and this sort. So it follows the journey of this book, it's on Amazon too, so if you guys are so inclined, you can check that out. Let's see here. So one of the things I've been working with is, it's been really fun, has been working with textures. And I've been reusing these textures over and over again. I scan them pretty large, so there's a lot of variety, and I tried my best to make sure there's not a lot of repeat motifs and stuff. So I try to get like blotches showing up on, the face, but also try to not make it look like, if you're looking at it, you're not going to be guessing about like, where it's just a copy and paste from somewhere else, even though it is a copy and paste. But my goal is to not make it feel like a copy and paste. Alright, so or maybe I can delete that. Go back to texture. Let's add some texture to the body. Yeah, so basically I just work with blend modes, trying to figure out what's an interesting look to the shapes being presented. So you may not see it right off the bat, but it's just kind of one of those things where you just feel like it's there. So just little shifts in color, little shifts in texture. So it's a combination of drawing and collage. So when I'm doing this story, it's kind of been a little bit challenging, because one is I'm not really drawing. I'm basically just cutting pieces of paper with my mouse and my stylus. So the mechanic doesn't feel like it's drawing. So it's kind of been an adjustment trying to make it work that way. So I'm throwing in another texture just to try to vary it up. And I know it's not the most original thing, this technique of just using textures over and over again and doing the paper cut and such. I know it's not original, but the way I'm putting it together, the way that my hand draws this will feel original. But I'm also doing this in the hopes that by doing this, by learning from other techniques, that it's gonna go into a mental blender in my mind, and then it'll spit itself out eventually in my other work. So even when I did like comics, it's like, oh, I'm copying someone else's work, and it doesn't, it's not really advancing my art, so to speak, or advancing my technique. Well, it'll advance my technique, but like the product that I made at that moment is, you know, it's still derivative, and I hope that eventually I'll come up with another look that will be my own, that I'll enjoy doing. And I think this paper cut thing is pretty interesting. The jury's still out with me as to whether it's like something I want to keep doing long term. Like, I'm having fun with it, but I also enjoy drawing as well, so it's like, well, and it is kind of tedious to put this together in some ways, because you're constantly like arranging things. You know, I spend more of my time just like going through this layer in the lower right corner here and sorting those out and making sure that you know, just like I'm adding color here, but I'm not being very precise, and that's part of the look of it being a kid's book. So yeah, I'll have to see. But I think my guess is that at the end of the day, I'm just gonna be, if I'm just making any kind of pictures, I'll be happy with it. Let's see. Okay. So I do look adjustments here, like lightening up an edge. Let's see. Just getting this down. Okay, so we got that. So another update. I'm starting back onto Animation Mentor, teaching a course, so that's been fun, trying to stretch that teaching muscle. So I'll have another course tonight. So if you guys want to sign up for the next session that's coming up, and that'll be the Winter A section. So we just started this session. So it goes on for about 6 weeks. And it goes on for about 6 weeks, and then we take a couple week break, and then resume the next session. So let's see. Also, if you guys are so inclined, you know, the holidays are coming up, so if you guys are looking for gift buying ideas, I have my shop, but I also have my 2 books, The Panda is Fat, and Other Panda Haikus, and Panda is Still Fat. Here's my, this is a damaged copy that I had that I was using for notes. So this is The Panda is Fat, and so if you can look on this on Amazon, it's an illustrated book of haikus and illustrations featuring my 2 characters, Pack the Panda and Randy the Red Panda, who's the one in the back here on this typewriter, and and Baby Junior too. There's also a baby as well. Who's trying to touch the cactus? Excuse me. So just go check out the affiliate links. So by clicking on the links, if you guys have send that to someone, or you purchase, or someone else purchases using that link, I get a little kickback, so it helps me a little bit, which is great. So you're supporting independent work, and you're also supporting me and my family, because I'm determined to, I just feel determined that to produce original content, produce stuff that's not always so like targeted towards you to manipulate you, I suppose. That might sound a little bit naive and idyllic, but I feel like now being a parent, it's interesting seeing the content that the media and the content that's available to that's out there for kids and just anybody in general. And I'm, there's not really much judgment there, other than maybe the withstanding the onslaught of marketing that a lot of these larger companies have. And there's a lot of bad ideas out there. There's a lot of great stuff out there too, but it's, you just gotta learn just to tune some of it out. And it's interesting for me to say that, because we actually signed up for Disney Plus, or my wife did, and she's pretty excited about it. And me, I'm kind of, I think for me, I and I understand, I don't people can get excited about Star Wars and certain TV shows and such, and I don't know if I used to be a fanboy for a little bit when it came to something like Pixar. I think for me, I used to be a fanboy for that, but then I think the older I got, and as my taste started changing, I think I realized that when things start feeling like when they start feeling like they're trying to tell a narrative, and and you see it also in conjunction with the rest of the industry, I think it's kind of interesting to see like it feels like art isn't as quite as diverse, and I feel like these days it doesn't feel quite as diverse either. So it's strange, because I think there's a real push for diversity, but not necessarily diversity in, like, it feels like the larger studios, the larger corporations have more of an influence these days more than ever, and they're the ones pushing kind of more the I don't know, kind of more of a streamlined, sanitized type of message with the media. It's always like, oh, you know, someone's, you know, you're gonna, you know, you can be whoever you want to be, you know, dream big. Like messages you've heard before. Whereas if you look at if I look at things from like Japan, to me I get more excited about that kind of stuff. When it's good though. There's also a lot of bad Japanese properties too. I think lately I've been feeling a little bit disinterested with some of the anime offerings because it too in some ways has its own tropes and its own, they have their own, you know, style to it, but I feel like now everybody's copying that style for a while, and then it's kind of deviated into its own thing where the way that people speak in anime or in Japanese media like that, it feels, you know, it all feels pretty cliche at the point, you know, like it used to be kind of interesting, and now it's kind of like everybody's doing it, so now it's like, well, what's the next thing? And it's kind of like when I watch TV shows, and it's like people will speak in a certain way, but it's not the way that real people would speak. You know, it's not, people don't have these kind of conversations in this way. I think a good example I saw that was one time, I remember seeing a clip about Miyazaki talking to some animators about animating a dog, and then he asked a question like, oh, have you guys, you guys played with dogs before, right? And then, you know, all the animators were looking at each other, and then he was like, and he was flabbergasted. He was like, you guys never touched a dog before? And so he like brought in a real dog for them to play with, and you know, so they actually got their hands on real life, a sample of real life, and because of that, that's how they make it feel a little bit more authentic. And I think I feel like that's missing from today's media, where it's like people talking political, I don't know, talking political statements, but they don't, you know, it doesn't feel like this is what you would say to someone in real life. And so to me, I think maybe that's a reflection of my style and sensibilities, where it feels like, you know, you would have more of a conversation, or you kind of have you want it to be grounded in reality. And I get like certain shows, like I was watching, like I was checking out like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and you know, it's obviously way over the top, and there's certain things about it being over the top that I appreciate when it's done well. So it's kind of weird trying to find, how do you ground realism in something that's like way over the top like that, or, you know, like a Wes Anderson film. It's very stylized how the way that people talk in his films. But I don't know maybe it's that to find it's okay to have people talk in a stylized way, but I guess when it's done all the time with everybody else, you see other people, when you see various groups of people doing the same thing, it feels like, well, it's not really your voice anymore, you're just copying what everybody else is doing. Okay, I think I should just hold off on that. So at this point, it's pretty apparent that Hugo here is a giant gorilla. I haven't posted much about any pictures with Hugo that kind of show his scale. So now I'm trying to figure out when to post that on my social media. But you guys are seeing it already, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Haven't quite figured this thing out yet, but sometimes as I'm typing with this, my cursor sometimes activates this on-screen keyboard that's pretty annoying sometimes, like that just now. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to shut that off, but it just comes and goes. Okay, so we got banana, then we got lemonade. Let's do lemonade here. Maybe lower the basket a little bit. Yeah, so it's more like the challenge with doing this collage style is that it's a lot of just piecing together things like this. So it's not really drawing. It's more so just putting things together. So it doesn't feel like a natural drawing motion. I love me some drawing. Although I should draw more with pencil and paper. I don't think I've ever quite mastered pencil and paper yet, to be honest. Because it's like I was drawing for a bit, and that was okay, and then I just started switching to digital because I thought, well, that's going to be the thing that everybody's going to be drawing on in the studios. And so I kind of went there and stopped drawing on paper. The closest thing I do get to just traditional is when I do like my ink drawings, and that's actually pretty fun to do because it's, you know, it's forcing me to adapt to traditional media. I always thought it was so lame when, like, I'm in the camp where people who do Inktober digitally are kind of, I don't know, to me it just feels weird. And they justify it by saying that, oh, you know, doing digital drawing is hard, you know, it's challenging, so it's therefore it's valid to use for Inktober. But I'm like, it's called Inktober. It's like, it's even the phrase digital ink, it's like, that's just a, you know, it's just what we decide to call it, I guess. But it's like, it's, you know, we could easily just named it like digital penciling, right? And then it's like, to me, it's like, why wouldn't you want to try to learn with pen? You know, there's a lot of advantages with it, and just the look too, because you're making something real with. Not to knock on digital work, but it's like we're really just drawing with pixels, and it's like you can't touch a pixel. You could touch a printed page, but that's made by a machine, you know. So there's really no tangible physical object that you can directly make with digital work, you know. And you even see that in the way that I don't know, I think like traditional work is like you make one, and there's, in some ways, there's more value to it because there's only one. You can't reproduce it, right? Digitally, you kind of produce that scarcity by not printing anymore, but you know, it's not like you're gonna like, how many artists are out there like deleting that one file after they make a bunch of the digital copies? I mean, after they made their prints, like how many of them are gonna say like, oh, I'm gonna delete the file so that, you know, it's gonna produce more scarcity? I doubt. I doubt people would do that. You know, then again, you can also say like, well, how do we perceive value? Because you can like look at Kanye West. You can just take a T-shirt that's. You can take a T-shirt that you can just buy anywhere for $10, and you know, with his name on it, it's suddenly like $100 for just a plain T-shirt. But I always think that it's important for us to keep tabs on our sorry, I need to finish that thought. I think it's important for us to have still maintain a sense of our physicality. You know, where we still remember what it's like to, you know, to interact with our hands, to make something, to whittle wood. I was thinking about this the other day about with my son. It's I'm not as big of a fan of these, like, you know, these apps, these learning apps, which is, it's great. They're great to use, but you don't get that tactile sensation when you're touching the iPad. You just, you know, as soon as the iPad detects a touch, it's like, you know, then it spouts off its reward, right? Like, there's no, when you push a button, I feel like there's a lot of these intangible things you feel when you're pressing a button. You feel like the initial settling of the button, then you push down, you feel the resistance against your finger, and I think just having that kind of response is really important. I think that even goes back to just when you're doing something like mixing paints. You know, you're wrestling with the medium. You're feeling it with your hands. You know, and then once you produce the piece, it's like, well, there's all these imperfections and interesting shapes and stuff that would not arise had you just, you know, slapped it. Have you just, like, you know, done it digitally without, you know, straight ahead. Like, you have to mess it up. You have to intentionally mess it up in order to make it look presentable. And I say that not as an expert on oil painting or any other mediums. I suck at those things, so. But there's a part of me that desires to go back to that. So I guess I have another few minutes. We'll see how long I go because it's almost time to break for lunch. You know, even us being online is kind of a strange thing. Lately it's been feeling stranger. Like this need to get likes, and like I'm doing this mostly just to promote my work, and you know it's because like what I mean I do it for fun, but you know make no mistake, I also do it to you know to advertise myself, my work, so that I can keep doing this. You know, and then, you know, there's also some ancillary benefit of, you know, teaching, you know, helping other people get better and teaching them and so forth. But, you know, really a big part of what we do is to make sure that we can survive and make a living and so forth. And we kind of choose something that we can find fulfillment and enough pleasure in to continue doing it. Let me see, how did I do this? Like there's certain times when I don't like drawing that much, and but I think that's with anything, you know, like I'm sure NBA players, they like I follow basketball a lot, and it's kind of an interesting sport to, or just athletics in general. They're interesting because you know you see the training that they have to go through, and like it's not, training doesn't look or feel pleasurable, and yet these guys do spend all these hours doing it for a reason. You know, they want to improve, they want to get better, they want to become champions. And they still love it. You know, they still love the game. You know, I was playing in a basketball league this last weekend, and you know, it's like the second game this season that I didn't score any points, and it was kind of like, ultimately it's like I was kind of bummed that we didn't win the game, but you know, I was also bummed because you know I didn't feel like I didn't contribute as well as I wished I had, and you know, being in my late 30s, it feels, you kind of feel that that you kind of hearing Father Time starting to whisper in your ear, you know, just not, you know, I'm not 40 or yet, but it's like I'm not 40 yet. I'm going to be 40 eventually, and it's like I can't do certain things like I did before. I don't feel as refreshed as I did before, and you know, the guy I was guarding, you know, he was blowing by me all the time, and I was just like, I could have kept up with him before or easily, but now I have to put more effort into making sure that and you feel the strain, and you know, I guess where I'm going with that is finding something that anything is going to have that stress, that feeling of discomfort. Go. Okay, so sandwich kind of looks a little bit small though compared to everything else. It's like I want the sandwich to feel bigger. Maybe I can just go like that. I don't want to obscure that silhouette too much though. Maybe I make this basket bigger. That blanket seems a little bit off though, so I'm just gonna see, it's just pushing pixels around. That's what. Yeah, let's fix that silhouette. Yeah, it's kind of feeling like a tangent. Oh. That's my stomach telling me it's almost time for lunch. Okay, so there's that. Oh, right. Maybe I should set up my Patreon again so I can at least listen to more classical music. Fund my audio streaming budget. I'm just using what is this called again? Something Pretzel? iPretzel or whatever. Oh, Pretzel. Yeah, it's okay. It's not really. I don't really feel like it's my cup of tea with some of this stuff. Okay, let's see. Okay, well, that's gonna be it for tonight, or today, sorry. Not tonight. But yeah, let's gonna stop here for now. Just do a quick break to get lunch ready for today, and then be back on this story. But I don't know if I'll be streaming again, but we'll see. Kind of, I want to focus on these things. So yeah, looking at that sandwich, it looks really small. So I'm gonna figure that out. And I think I need to make a leg for him right here. This feels a little bit weird. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out, guys, for streaming. This is Nolan Lee from Punching Pandas. So thanks for hanging out. Cheers. As soon as I can find my mouse.